Morning, guys. Well, I think it's morning. It's getting towards the afternoon, nearly 12 o'clock, I think. So, I've got a few videos in the pipeline, which will, in the next week or so, I'll be uploading. So, one of my earlier posts on YouTube was I'm going to start doing videos and separate them into different tiers of bushcraft. So, the first tier is going to be for purely for the beginners, and tier 1 of basic bushcraft is going to be about knives, which knives I recommend if you're first starting out in bushcraft, that are well within, or should be well within budget. So I'll go through the specs and everything. But before that, I just wanted to explain a little bit on that about grinds. Again, I'll probably go into more depth about different grinds for you guys who's new to bushcraft and new to knives and things like that. So to give you just a little bit of an example, I'm going to do probably a bit of demonstration. Now, I've brought 3 knives with me along today. All 3 of them have got different grinds on them. Okay, so I'm going to show you the difference between them, what they're good for, what they're bad for, and things like that. So the first knife I'm going to be showing you is, in fact, I'm going to start with this one. Now, just ignore the sheath. The sheath doesn't come with this knife, okay? The original sheath that comes with this knife is terrible, so I just use this one now. I think this one's from a Yukari Puko 110, I think. But anyway, so I'll start with this knife first, because when you're first starting out on bushcraft and things, I do recommend starting off with a Scandi grind. The reasons for it is because a Scandi grind is very easy to sharpen in the field and maintain in the field. It's got good all-round ability, so you can baton with it, you can obviously carve with it, slice with it, etc. So I do highly recommend, if you're totally new to knives, totally new to sharpening, totally new to bushcraft, then I do recommend your first starting blade being a Scandinavian grind, otherwise known as a Scandi grind. Okay, this is one of a few that I'll be showing you in a later video about starting off bushcraft and what knives to start with, etc. Okay, so I'm actually quite impressed with this knife, really am. This is the knife that I use at allotment, and I absolutely love it. Absolutely love it. I really didn't think it was going to be as good as it is. So I basically wanted a robust knife I could use at the allotment for processing wood and cutting cordage and things like that. Maybe the odds batoning through wood and light chopping. And there's a lot of cheap knives I could do that with. So because I've never actually bought a Barco knife before, obviously I bought Barco Laplander saw, but I've never bought a Barco knife before. And this came up, and it's called the Barco Recce Knife 2449. I can't actually remember if I've reviewed this or not. If I haven't, then I'll probably review it, because it is worth it. So this is a Scandi grind. Okay, so this is the shoulder of the knife. Okay, and the grind goes all the way down there. Okay, it's usually rounded as well towards the tip, so it's got quite a wide belly on this one. Now, you can get Scandinavian grinds, some you can get more shallow than this. I know some of the TBS knives have a more shallow Scandinavian grind to this, but if I hold it like that, you can see this shoulder here like sticks out. Now, knives like Mora, Hultafors, and obviously this now Barco, they come with Scandinavian grinds. Now, a lot of Scandinavian grinds come with what's called a secondary bevel or a micro bevel, and I don't think I've ever used a Mora knife that hasn't got a micro bevel. Every Mora knife that I've owned has got a tiny micro bevel. So what I mean by a micro bevel is, so all this belly here is a Scandi, okay? Now at the very edge where the apex is, so if you're looking at your edge, the apex is basically the very edge right at the top, called the apex, okay? That's where you start cutting with. Now micro bevel sometimes on Scandinavian grinds has a micro bevel, and you can just see it when you shine it into the light. It kind of reflects off you, and basically what's that's for, that's basically to protect the very edge of your Scandi grind knife, so you can probably do a lot more harder work with it. But at the same time, it kind of interferes with carving a little bit. So if I buy a Scandinavian grind knife with a micro bevel right on the very edge, I tend to take it to the sharpening stone and then grind that out. But eventually, through sharpening and stropping, etc., eventually that micro bevel will disappear. Okay. So yeah, Scandinavian grind, very easy to sharpen, and I'll go into more depth when I start my knife videos properly in my Bushcraft Basic tiers. But yeah, first one is a Scandinavian grind. Okay, so second knife, the Ontario Hunter. Again, I won't go into too much of the specs. This is made by Ontario. It's called the Old Hickory Hunting Blade. This is only 2mm thick because it's originally designed for like skinning, and it's basically like a butcher's knife. It used to come in a lot longer. I think it's like 7.5, 8-inch blades, but due to popularity and demand, Ontario made a smaller version, and this is it. And I'm quite impressed with this because it's does everything I want it to do, but it's not a heavy duty knife, so don't expect miracles if you try to bat on this or use it for chopping, because it's not what it's there for. But for basic bushcraft carving tasks and cutting food, meat, basic carving tasks, then this is ideal. But note the grind, okay? This is what was called a flat grind, okay? So it's flat all the way to the bevel, okay? So notice the difference, Scandi, and then you got flat, okay? So there's no shoulder there, okay? So this shoulder sticks out on here, as you can see. It's Scandi grind, some are bigger than others. This is a flat grind with what we call a secondary bevel, which is like a V-edge, okay? So you can just see it. These knives, when they first come, they're not to my standards of sharpness, so I've had to like kind of reprofile the edge of this. But it's still running a flat grind, and it's still got a secondary bevel right on the edge here, okay? So instead of the cutting edge being here from the belly all the way down, you can see the cutting edge is a lot smaller, a lot more shallower. So that is the cutting edge there, and it's called a flat grind. Okay, so it's all ground flat, and then you've got a secondary bevel right there, really tiny bevel, okay, which is usually a what you call a V grind. So what might mean by a V grind, if you look at the tiny sharpening choil there, it's kind of, the very grind on the tip of the apex is in the shape of a V, okay, and you'll get a V on most flat grinds. They will have that kind of V taper on it, and you also get them on hollow grinds as well, which I'll go into more depth in one of my later videos. Okay, so that's a Scandinavian grind. A flat grind with tiny secondary bevel, or V-edge. Now, the last knife, because I was in a hurry this morning, I was in a bit of a hurry this morning taking one of the kids to school, and I grabbed what I thought was my convex grind knife, and it turns out it's not. It's my Condor Hudson Bay. However, it's very similar to a convex grind because this is a modification, my modded Hudson Bay knife. Originally it was like a flat grind, again with a secondary bevel, but because I wanted to use this for more heavy duty chopping, I actually changed the grind and put like a slightly rounded edge on it, making it kind of a semi-convex. I wanted to show you guys a full convex, but like I just said, I grabbed the wrong knife and I ended up with this one. But this is pretty much as close as you can get to a convex grind. Okay, so this is like a semi-convex, so it's more like a Scandivex, if you like, which is like a new term for it. But I just wanted to show you, it all depends what knife, what you wanted it for, okay, and different cutting abilities, okay, for you, the beginner. So we'll start with the Scandinavian grind. It's excellent for excellent slicer. I tend to have Scandinavian grinds that's quite high up there. Some obviously can be higher, so it's more like a saber grind, which again I'll go into. But this is a high Scandi. I'm not really into my shallow Scandi grinds, not at all. I rather have them like this, so they're more higher up. So, cutting ability with the Scandinavian grind. So, probably debark this. And if you just go with the bevel, where the bevel is, just tip the blade just a little bit so that the knife is just touching the wood, and then just carve. And a Scandi grind is, especially when it's razor sharp like this is just second to none when it comes to bushcraft. You know, it's really good slicing, good all rounder at batoning, because of the way Scandinavian grinds were originally designed. Yes, they don't make good chopping blades, which again I'll go into, but as far as slicing is, especially if you're first starting out and you are a beginner, this is the way to go. Okay, really lovely to slice with and carve with this, and really love this knife, which again I'll go into in one of my videos. I can't think of a single fault with this Barco wrecking knife Scandi. I just can't. Really good all rounder for a knife this size. Okay, so you know, within seconds slices the bark off, and then we come to this. Okay, the flat grinds with secondary bevel, V-edge. It's very thin profile. That's because it's designed for slicing very thin. So it will cut meat, no problem at all. Cut your veggies, cut your taters, cut your onions and things like that, absolutely no problem at all. Chopping, yeah, not because it's a thin profile, but because of the angle and the grind. It's, you know, flat grinds are not the best choppers. You want something probably a bit more substantial. If you do too much heavy duty chopping with this, or batoning, which is what we do in bushcraft, with a flat grind with a V-edge, the chances are you will probably start to chip the edge. So it's not specifically designed for batoning, but for a food prep knife and just general camp task, it will work quite well. So pick another spot and we'll do some debarking. Okay, so again, find the bevel where it is. It's a bit like when you're stropping a knife, which again I'll go into in one of my videos. Okay, so find the right angle and then start to slice. Now, because this is designed primarily for a slicer, it does slice slightly better than the Scandi, because this is what it's designed for. You know, this is a slicer. So if this was skinning a piece of game, a bit of meat, then it would just blitz through it, because it's what it's designed for. A flat grind is designed for slicing. Again, within seconds it's gone. So in the slicing test, yes, this performed probably slightly better than the Scandi. Like I said, the Scandi grind is more of an all-rounder, but master of none, is one of my favourite sayings. But in the slicing, yeah, this will be probably a Scandi, hands down. So a bit more, just a bit bigger. So I'm sorry guys that I bought the wrong knife to show you, but this is a semi-convex. So a convex or semi-convex design, especially now this side, it's designed purely for chopping, not fine tasks. Although, you know, it just depends on the way the edge is done. You can get fine slices and fine shavings, and you can debark and things like that, but it's never going to be as good as a flat grind or a Scandi, in my opinion, as far as slicing is. It all depends on how well it's made, the geometry, because I have used a lot of convex grinds that has been, you know, exceptional slices, but to me, Scandi or flat grind of that nature, because of what it's designed to do, will always have that kind of advantage over a convex, which is more designed for heavy duty. But you know, we've got a green piece of apple here, so we'll give it a go. Obviously it's a lot more bigger, so yeah, it's doing a pretty good job of that. So slicing ability, yes, it will do it. Obviously because of the size of the knife, it's got less control, but it will do it. Okay, so debarked it there. So yeah, not as good a slicer as the other two, because of that grind, but it will do it. So straight away you can see what I'm getting at, what different knife grinds are for and what they're not for. Okay, now the next test I'm going to do again is might actually surprise you now, is notching. So on the other end of this green apple, oh, that smell. I'm going to do three different notches with three different knives. So we'll start with the Scandinavian grind. Okay, and all I'm going to do is just three small notches, as if you'd put it on a tent peg. Okay, so first of all, Scandi grind. I'm going to place that knife on top of the wood. With your thumb, you're going to make an imprint into the wood, and you're going to push it down. Okay, push it down into the wood, and obviously that's going to be your stop cut. And then we do the notch. Okay, so we do the notch by placing it maybe at a 45-degree angle to the stop cut, and then we're going to cut into the stop cut. Okay, so the first cut is going to be there, and we're cutting up to the stop cut with the Scandi. Okay, so once you start cutting, you stop deeper and deeper and deeper, and what you want is that crunching sound, a bit like I always say this, the sound that you want, that you know that your knife is biting, is the same sound as if your boot is, if you're walking in snow and your boot starts crunching in the snow and you get that crunch sound. That's the same kind of sounds that you get from a piece of wood. Okay, so that goes towards the stop, and then what I want to do is get all this out. So I'm going to put it on top like that, on top of the stop cut. I'm going to push down and then out. Okay, so that's your notch. Handle this being a Scandi grind, handle that absolutely no problem. You can go a bit deeper if you want. If you've got slightly bigger cord, or you want it to be slightly deeper. And the Scandi grind will do this absolutely no problem all day long, no problem at all. Do the same again. There we go. So there's your notch. Again, it's what the Scandi grind is designed for. It's designed for you know, slicing. It's designed for perfect for notching because of that grind there. And this is why I like my high Scandi grinds, okay, not shallow grinds, because you can really get it deeper, a deeper penetration if your Scandi grind is slightly higher. Okay, so that's the first notch done by the Bahco wrecking knife, it's called. Second, it's not going to be as comfortable to do this because this is only 2mm thick. Okay, so it will hurt your thumb, but in this case I'm just showing you the different grinds and different cutting abilities. Okay, so we'll do exactly the same. So just below that notch there, and we shall press it down. Okay, so same thing again, we've got that. Exactly the same thing again, so I'm going to cut right up to that line. And again, try and let your knife do as much of the work as possible, especially if you've got a thin knife as this, because it will leave a depression in your thumb, and after a while your thumb will be very sore because this spine is thin and it's sharp, which is what it's supposed to be designed for, but it's not the most comfortable to do push cuts with your thumb, which is one of my favourite cuts to do when you're doing tasks like this. So same again, crunch it. Okay, so same again, done the notch, and I'm going to go a little bit deeper, just like I did with the Scandi. And I want to show you something right now. Okay, so that's about as deep as I'm going to go, but I want to show you something. Okay, so I have to put more pressure on the downward stroke, okay, to get this out, and I'll tell you why. Because it's a different grind. Okay, so about the same thickness, both about as deep as each other, but this was harder to do the notching with this because of that grind, especially when you go down to try and get the material out, and then you push down to try and remove the material that you've just carved, because of how shallow this is. So when you press down, this secondary edge here, that's how deep it's going to go. Okay, whereas the Scandi, it's a much larger surface area when you're doing the push cut. Okay, so it's a good slicer, don't get me wrong, but for notching, this will always excel than this in front of this, because of the width, or how shallow that edge is. Okay, so in order to get a better to be better at notching, you'd have to bring that little edge there all the way up, probably to where this pattern is here. Okay, then it'd be a lot better at penetrating. Okay, So, Scandi flat grind. Now we come to the semi-convex. Okay, so again, just below that one, same piece of wood. I'm going to go push down. So push, so not bad on the push, and then we'll do exactly the same. Okay, no problem at all. They're good on the push downward stroke. A little bit more difficult than the Scandi, but it did it. So I'll go deeper. And we'll cut that last bit out again. Okay, so this. Okay, so in the notching, this performed better than this, and again because of that grind. Now this is semi-convex, okay, but again, similar to the Scandi, is how thick that bevel is there compared to the flat. This is only like a micro bevel, very small compared to this. So on the push test, it's just slightly better. And slicing ability, going through the material to make the notch, yeah, probably less, just a little bit less deeper than what these two are, but again it did the job. So what I'm trying to explain to you about different grinds for different things, okay? Like I said in one of my other videos, there's no such thing as one knife to rule them all. Every knife has their different uses. So, you know, as far as a good all-round slicer and notcher for things like this, for making pot holders and tent pegs and things like that, where you have to do a lot of notching, then you know, this is the best, in my opinion. Out of the three tools, this is the one I'd use the most for that kind of tasks. For food prep, skinning, cutting meat, flat grind would be best for that kind of purpose. Although it will do the notching, but it's a little bit more difficult on the final push down cut to remove the materials, because of how shallow that is. Okay, and last but not least, the Condor Hudson Bay with its new modified grind on it, that beat the Ontario in the downward push to remove the materials, because obviously how big the grind is on the edge. Okay. Now, what I'm going to do, I'm going to leave that there, and I'm going to do just part 2 to this video on, say, let's go with feather sticking. Okay, so stay with me and watch part 2. Thanks for watching.